Today, we go to chapter 19, human resources. So when we talk about human resources, it's the division of an organization that is saddled with the responsibility of hiring, recruiting, training new employees. So from there, we move to labor productivity. And when we talk about labor productivity, we already know what labor is, the human effort, physically or mentally, that is put into the course of production. So how productive labor is, how productive an individual is, how productive I am as an individual in terms of what I do is the measurement of my productivity. So how do we measure labor productivity? It's written here, it said, labor productivity is the total output per period of time divided by the average number of employees, which means labor productivity is defined as output per worker over a given period of time. That is what labor productivity is about. Then we go to the measurement of labor productivity. Here they said, we might assume that an increase in our competitive businesses will lead to an increase in labor productivity. High labor productivity should make average costs lower. This allows the business to either lower its price and so gain higher sales, or keep prices the same and so increase its profit margin. So it is always assumed that whenever productivity increases, competitiveness should also increase. And if competitiveness increases, it means two things. One, either you are able to reduce your average cost of production, then as a result, you make your price becomes less, and you can make more revenue. Or you leave the price the way it is, and at the same time, reduce your cost, which means you can increase your profit margin. So here they said, however, businesses sometimes find that they become less competitive despite increasing their labor productivity. What are they trying to say here? They are trying to tell us about the reasons why labor productivity may not necessarily improve competitiveness. Number one, rival businesses will increase their productivity at an even faster rate. So the way you think as a business or as a firm, you have increased your productivity. The same rate, your competitors have increased their own productivity, and they have even done it faster than what you think. So you have increased your productivity, let's say for 20%, and your competitors have increased their productivity to around 45%. So then you'll be like, why am I not still being competitive? You are not competitive because the rate at which your competitors have increased their productivity is far ahead of the way you have increased your productivity. Two, new rival business will set up and pay lower wages. So new businesses might set up at the same time and pay less wages. If they are able to pay less wages, it means they can put so much effort in providing resources because they will have less cost. Then they can charge a lower price, making them have more sales than you as a business. So you might not be so competitive if new businesses set up and at the same time they are able to convince their employees to get a lower pay, which means they will have a reduced cost, and at the same time, they'll be able to sell more than you. The third reason, rival businesses may release better new products. Yes, you have increased your productivity, but your competitors have just launched products that are more superior than yours, or they have just launched services that are more superior than yours. Then it makes you to be less competitive. We go further to labor turnover. So for labor turnover is just the rate at which employees leave the business. So the rate at which your workers they leave your organization is what we call labor turnover. So the formula for labor turnover is the number of staff leaving divided by the average number of staff in post multiplied by 100. So here it said the number of staff leaving divided by the average number of staff in post multiplied by 100. So when we talk about labor turnover, we're talking about the rate at which a firm is able to keep its workers. So if you are able to retain your workers, that means you are having a high retention rate and a low turnover rate, labor turnover rate. So what are the advantages here? So we go on to, okay, here it said, High labor turnover is caused by number. What are the reasons why a firm or a business will have high labor turnover? Number one, low pay leads to higher labor turnover as workers leave to get better pay. So workers might start leaving your organization because you're paying them less. So they feel like they will be able to get higher pay or a pay rise when they go to other companies. So they will leave the company. Two, few trainings and promotion opportunities. I wrote, workers want to improve and be promoted, but if the business doesn't guarantee them that, they will choose to leave. So some workers leave organizations because they don't have the chance to be promoted and they don't have the chance to be trained. So this demotivates them and they feel like they are not valued in that organization and they might choose to leave. Poor working conditions, low job satisfaction, bullying and harassment in the workplace and other factors. Workers sometimes leave the environment, leave the organization because they are being harassed, they are not being treated well. So this might also cause high labor turnover for organizations. Some businesses are poor at selecting and recruiting the right candidates for position. So also, when we talk about selecting the right people into the right position, some of the human resources department in organizations, they might not choose the right person for the right position. As a result of that, it means that they've employed someone who doesn't fit into that position. As a result, the individual might choose to leave because he or she is not doing what he knows how to do. In the recession, labor turnover often falls as the number of vacancies falls. Workers may worry that if they leave their job without having another one to go, they will be unemployed for a long time. In a boom, there are far more vacancies due to labor shortage, and so labor turnover may rise. So another factor that could cause high labor turnover or labor turnover is that recession. In recession, jobs are scarce, unemployment is rampant. So as a result of that, workers don't want to leave their job because they might not have another one. But during the boom, if there is an economic growth in an economy, workers might start seeking other alternatives that might improve their life, that might improve their lifestyle, that might improve their opportunities at workplace. So these are the reasons why labor turnover can increase or reduce. So what are the problems of high labor turnover? So what are the problems a firm or a business might encounter if there is high labor turnover? Number one, recruiting new staff can be costly. So one of the problems a business would face if it's recruiting new staff, if there's high labor turnover, is that they might have to pay to employ more workers. So that means it's expensive even to train workers. So if there's high labor turnover, workers will need to be replaced. And as a result of that, businesses might need to put more money into recruiting staff. Two, it takes time for new staff to become familiar with their roles and how the business operates. High labor turnover is likely to reduce the human process advantage of a business. Another problem a business will face if there's high labor turnover is that the new workers would need to acclimatize, would need to understand how the business operates, and this might take time. And the time might not be enough because customers might be waiting, and other stakeholders might not be given that, other stakeholders might not be happy when there's delay. So another problem about high labor turnover is that the new workers that you're going to invite or recruit might find it difficult to quickly acclimatize to the new system. The third problem about high labor turnover is larger companies may put on induction programs to welcome employees, which add on to their cost. When workers are being employed, they need to go for induction. That means training on how the company works, training on new equipment, training on new system. So this is an expenses for the business, which is also an increase in cost. The last problem the last disadvantage about high turnover, labor turnover, is that if the post is filled from within the business, there may be training needs for the worker to get this job. So another problem about high labor turnover is that even if the firm is replacing the workers that are leaving, within that the firm is doing internal recruitment, it might still need to train those workers for the new role, which is also an expenses for the business. But what are the advantages of high labor turnover? One, New staff can bring in fresh ideas and experience for their work with other businesses. New workers might come with new ideas, new methods, which could be useful for the company, which is an advantage. Two, some workers may be ineffective in their current job and need to be encouraged to leave. Getting rid of ineffective staff leads to labor turnover. Another advantage about high labor turnover is that when workers leave, especially those that are ineffective, because they are ineffective, that means they are not adding any value to the organization. It is good for them to leave so that you can bring in workers that are valuable to the organization, which will increase productivity. The third advantage, if a business is shrinking in size, reducing the size of workforce will lead to higher labor turnover. Yes, it's another advantage. The other advantage about high labor turnover is that when workers leave, or especially for a business that is trying to reduce its size, so it is important to allow workers to leave. So if the business wants to reduce its size in terms of growth, it doesn't want to expand, it wants to reduce its size, then there's no way it will not allow workers to leave. So workers will definitely leave, which will result into high labor turnover. Then the last one, where a business pays low wages or where conditions to work are poor, it will be more profitable to have a constant turnover of staff rather than raise wages or improve conditions of work. Some companies are used to paying workers low wages. As a result of that, instead of them to start thinking of increasing wages, they would prefer workers to leave and recruit new ones so that they can still maintain that culture of paying low wages. So they're not going to try to improve the wage rate. They're not going to try to improve the conditions at work. So they will only recruit new workers. So that means they don't have to change their wage basis. That's about labor turnover. Then we go to labor retention. For labor retention means the rate at which you are able to keep your employees, the rate at which employees are being kept at work. So the formula for labor retention is the number of staff staying divided by the average number of staff in post multiplied by 100. Then we have absenteeism. For absenteeism means the habitual pattern of absence from a duty. That means how habitual your workers seems to not want to be at work. They continue to leave work. They continue not to be present at workplace, giving different excuses. But most of the time, workers are always absent, and the excuse they give is, "Oh, we are sick." So the rate at which they continue to give excuses about sickness becomes the rate at which they become the rate of absenteeism. So here I wrote absenteeism it's an habitual pattern of absence from a duty without good reason. So you continue to be absent at work without giving a tangible explanation. So immediately we go into the consequences of absenteeism. So here they said, absenteeism is a problem for all businesses for a number of reasons. So what are the consequences of absenteeism? Number one, businesses may have to pay for sick pay. That means when workers are absent and they claim that they are sick, businesses have to pay them for the sick because they have been treated and businesses have to pay for that. Two, if temporary staff are brought into cover for absent staff, this leads to increased cost. Equally, cost will increase. If permanent staff have to work overtime, they are often paid at higher rates than their basic rates of pay. So another consequence of absenteeism is that it increases the cost of businesses. How does it increase the cost of businesses? Businesses have to replace those absent workers. Business might need to do that by recruiting temporary staff. If temporary staff are recruited, they have to be paid. Or they give the workers additional work to do, which means they have to work overtime. And working overtime would mean that they have to pay them higher than what they used to pay them on a daily basis, which means the cost of the firm will increase. The third consequence, output may suffer if workers are expected to cover for sick colleagues or if temporary staff are not as productive as the absent workers. So if workers have to cover up for the absent employees, it might mean that they won't be able to do their own job perfectly, which means output will reduce. And another problem about it is that if temporary workers are used in replacing those absent workers, but they don't have the expertise, they don't have the technical know-how to do the same way or to act or to be productive the same way as the absent worker, then it becomes a waste for the business, which means they are incurring more cost with less productivity. Continued absences can cause problems if the worker is very important to a particular area of work or a project. It becomes a problem if the absent worker is a pivot to the organization. That means without that employee, the business will not go the way it should go. Then it becomes a problem for the business. The next one, customers. Customers can be lost if production is delayed or there are problems with quality. Businesses might start losing customers if, as a result of absenteeism, there's less efficiency. They are not producing the way they are supposed to produce. Customers' orders are being delayed. As a result, then they will start losing customers because of absenteeism. The next one, absenteeism can demotivate the staff, make them feel like it is not worth making an effort, who are left to cope with the problems. When the rate of absenteeism continues to increase, other members of staff might feel like the company doesn't even care. So they might also choose to leave, or they might also choose to be absent. So it becomes a culture of the organization. Absenteeism becomes a culture. And if absenteeism becomes a culture, it is left for the business to find a way out because the workers have put them in a very tight corner. The next one, the higher the rate of absenteeism, the more likely it is for the workers that workers will report ill. This is because a culture of absenteeism will develop, making it acceptable for workers to take extra days holiday by reporting in sick. So when the rate of absenteeism continues to increase, then it becomes a culture within that organization. So every worker would want to try to be absent. It becomes a norm in that organization. So how do we calculate the rate of absenteeism? The rate of absenteeism is calculated as the number of staff absent on a day divided by the total number of staff employed multiplied by 100. The number of staffs absent today divided by the total number of staff employed multiplied by 100. That's rate of absenteeism. Then we go to the annual rate of absenteeism. They said the annual rate of absenteeism is also possible to calculate the annual. It's also possible to calculate the annual rate of absenteeism. The rate of absenteeism can be calculated for a business as a whole and compared to industry averages or national averages. It can also be compared between one part of the business and another or compared over time. Differences in rate of absenteeism occur for a number of reasons. So there are different ways in which we can calculate the rate of absenteeism. But here, we're talking about why it is difficult. Why is it difficult to calculate the rate of absenteeism and what causes differences in the rate of absenteeism? The first one, small businesses and large businesses. For small businesses, they tend to have lower rate of absenteeism than larger businesses. Why? Because small businesses employ less workers and large businesses employ more workers. So the more the workers you have, the more likelihood the rate of absenteeism increases. So it's difficult to compare the rate of absenteeism between small businesses and large businesses. That's number one. Two, health and safety is a factor. I said, health and safety is a factor. Businesses that have good health and safety procedures will tend to suffer less illness-related absenteeism than those with poor procedures. Equally, some jobs are more dangerous to health than others, and so absenteeism is more likely. Another reason why it's difficult to really measure the rate of absenteeism is that some companies are conscious about health and safety, while others are not conscious about it. So companies that are conscious about health and safety would have less ill-related absenteeism than companies that are not conscious about it. The third reason, the nature of the task given to workers is another factor. That means the kind of work people engage in, the kind of work they are engaged at workplace can also determine if they're going to be absent at work or always at work. The next one, the culture of a workplace can cause absenteeism. If workers are overworked with bosses who make them feel nervous or frightened and ignore workers' needs, work-related stress is much more common because they often take months off work at a time. Another factor that will determine the rate of absenteeism is how workers feel in the organization. Are they being treated well? Do they have bosses that appreciate their efforts or not? If they have bosses that do not appreciate their efforts, they might choose to take time off the work, which means the rate of absenteeism will increase. The next one, stress-related illness is more also common. Job is stressful. So if the job workers do gets them stressed, they might also take some days off, which means absenteeism might be rampant. The last one, workers who feel that they are not paid enough are more likely to take time off work. They may see it as compensation. Sometimes that makes a bad situation better. For the lack of money they receive, low pay can also demotivate workers and contribute to absenteeism. Another causes of absenteeism is the pay workers get. Some workers may feel like they are not getting more pay. They are not getting the required payment that they deserve. If they are not deservedly paid, they might feel like, oh, we need to take some absence from work, as this will cover up or compensate for our lower pay. So workers might choose to leave work or might choose to be absent at work to compensate for their low level of payment. So those are the reasons why workers might choose to be absent at work. Then we go to limitations of labor productivity and their calculations. So what are the problems? What are the disadvantages of labor productivity in terms of calculating labor productivity, in terms of calculating labor turnover and retention turnover, in terms of calculating absenteeism rate? So we start with labor productivity. So what are the criticisms about labor productivity? For labor productivity, the limitation about labor productivity is this. I wrote, the method of labor productivity may not be very efficient as it can be difficult to measure the output of workers accurately. We said labor productivity is output divided by the input. That means total number of outputs per worker divided by the number of workers. But what about those workers that are office workers? How do you calculate their output? So it becomes difficult to use labor productivity to calculate the output of certain workers, which means that is a criticism about labor productivity. It's sometimes difficult to calculate labor productivity accurately. For labor turnover and retention, I wrote, it will be limited because of part-time and full-time workers. When we talk about labor turnover and labor retention, it is difficult to calculate because some companies employ more part-time workers than others, and some companies employ more full-time workers than part-time workers. So the more part-time worker you have, the high labor turnover. The more full-time workers you have, the less labor turnover it will be. So it becomes difficult to use labor turnover rate or labor retention rate to calculate labor turnover because of part-time workers and full-time workers. Full-time workers yeah, they stay in the work, but part-time workers are temporary workers. So you wouldn't know when they're going to stay more, when they're going to continue to stay, or when they're going to leave. So it becomes difficult to calculate high labor turnover or high labor retention, or low labor turnover or low labor retention. It's difficult to calculate because of the numbers of workers that are part-time and the workers that are full-time. Therefore, absenteeism rates. Why is it difficult to calculate absenteeism? I wrote, the calculation doesn't put into consideration absence for few hours or difference between large and small businesses. Some workers are absent at work, not for a whole day. They are only absent for few hours. So how do you calculate workers that are absent for few hours when we need to calculate absenteeism rate? Because absenteeism rate is calculated as the number of absentees per day divided by the number of staffs multiplied by 100. But we're talking about workers that are only absent for a few hours. So it becomes difficult to calculate the using absenteeism rate for that. So that's the criticism about that. Then we go to strategies to increase productivity and retention and to reduce turnover and absenteeism. One thing that is sure is this: absenteeism, high absenteeism rate, high labor turnover is a problem to the organization. Low labor turnover, which is the same as high labor retention rate, and high productivity is an addition. It's a positive thing to the organization. So what does a firm need to do? How do firms improve high labor retention and improve high productivity? And how can they reduce high labor turnover and high absenteeism? That is what we need to talk about here. So I wrote, the importance of having high productivity and retention rates and lower staff turnover and absenteeism rates are as follows. One, it increased profits and revenue. As productivity increases, output per worker will increase, so there's more to sell for firms. So profit will be made, sales will increase because labor turnover has reduced, and labor retention rate has increased, productivity has increased, absenteeism has reduced. This will increase profitability and revenue of the business. Two, it reduces the cost of recruitment and selection, which means businesses will be able to spend less on employing workers. Then they can make more profit. So what are the ways in which businesses could improve productivity, reduce high labor turnover, increase labor retention rate? How can they do that? The first way in which government can use, the first way in which business can use is through financial rewards. I wrote, if financial rewards are increased, employees will work harder and produce more. According to Taylor's theory, the best way to carry out a task is to pay workers according to what they produce. If workers are being paid according to what they produce, they might want to produce more, and that will increase productivity. Other ways to improve the performance of workers is to give them performance-related pay them based on how they perform, give them bonuses, give them profit-related payments, or find a commission system. When they make a service or when they sell the service, pay them a certain percentage of what they sell. These are ways of which financial reward can increase productivity and reduce absenteeism. Two, another way is employee share ownership. Ensure your employees are part of the shareholders of the company. Here I wrote, businesses do reward employees by giving them company shares. It could be done through share save scheme. When we talk about a share save scheme, it means the workers are keeping certain percentage of their wages to, at the end of it, to become a shareholder. So they save certain part of their salary to become a shareholder. So that could also improve employees' motivation, productivity, and reduce staff retention, or reduce staff turnover. Because when an employee becomes an owner of a business, we wouldn't want to leave the business. We would want to continue to work in the business. That's another way. The next method is through consultation strategies. We're talking about consultation strategies. We're talking about ensuring that workers are part of decision-making in the organization. You call your workers, you call the employees to be part of decision-making in the organization. So what are the types? Here I wrote, employees are likely to be motivated and more productive if they are consulted on decision-making. So when you consult them, when the business wants to take decision, it might also motivate them and increase their productivity. So there are different types of consultation. We have pseudo consultation, we have classical, we have integrative. For pseudo consultation, this is a situation where management makes a decision and inform employees of the decision through their representatives. For pseudo consultation, it means that the management will take decision, but they will inform the employees through the employees' representatives. So they will inform employees that, oh, we have taken this decision, we have taken A, B, C decision, and this is why we have taken that decision. The management will take it, and immediately they inform the representatives to keep in touch with the employees. That's what we call pseudo consultation. Then we have classical consultation. For classical consultation, I wrote, this is a way of involving employees through their representatives in discussion on matters which affect them most. For classical, the representative of employees would sit with management to discuss the matters that affect the employees. We call it classical consultation. Then we have integrative consultation. For integrative consultation, here it involves employees directly, unlike pseudo and classical. For pseudo and classical, the employees are involved indirectly. But for integrative consultation, this involves employees directly. So I wrote, this directly involves employees on matters that commonly concerns them. So here, employees are seen, are talked to, are involved directly on matters that affect. They talk it out with the management. That is consultation strategy, which can also improve labor productivity and reduce labor turnover. Then the next method in which businesses can improve productivity is through empowerment strategies. So when we talk about empowerment strategies, for empowerment strategies, what is empowerment itself? Empowerment involves making better use of the knowledge, experience, and creative talents of employees. So you are ensuring that the workers, your employees, are being used effectively. That means you allow them to explore, you allow them to give their quota, you allow them to perform. That means you are empowering them. So here I wrote empowerment strategies. Okay, I wrote empowerment. Empowerment implies giving somebody more power and control. That's what empowerment means. That means you give them more power, more authority to do things. Then for empowerment strategies, I wrote it involves making use of employees' knowledge, skills to carry out different functions. So how does a firm strategize on empowerment? They can do this through training. That's the first one, training. Here I wrote, training. It helps employees to learn new skills. This shows the gap between the current skills and those needed to complete new tasks. Training can empower employees because when you train employees, you're going to train them on how to carry out the new function. You're not training them on what they already know. So training would reduce the gap between what they know and what they don't know. So with training, employees become more empowered and they'll be able to understand what they don't understand, and it adds to their skills. This would improve their motivation and productivity. Another way to use strategies empowerment is to provide the necessary resources. How do you provide necessary resources to your workers? Give them information that they need. Give them the information that would be needed to carry out their function. When you empower them, give them information that is needed to carry out those tasks that are complex. So here I go. Provide the necessary resources. This involves giving staff necessary information to complete more complex tasks. So that's another way to use strategies of empowerment. The third one, hand over authority. So to hand over authority, here it means as soon as you have empowered your employees, give them the free hand to act. Don't hinder their progress. Trust them. Let them be able to do the job. Don't check on them anymore. Let them freely do their job. You have empowered them. You've given them the necessary skills needed. You've given them the necessary information. So allow them the free hand to operate. That is hand over authority. Then the next one, inspire confidence. Here I go. Senior managers must inspire empowered employees so as they feel comfortable about their new roles. As soon as you have empowered your employees, allow them, give them the confidence, show them that they are able to do it. Inspire them. Give them that confidence that they don't need you anymore to carry out the function. In this course, you are inspiring them. In this course, you are allowing them to do the job, and they'll feel comfortable doing the job, and they'll be able to deliver. Then the last one, provide feedback. When we talk about providing feedback, here I wrote, it is important to provide positive feedback to empowered workers. It is important to provide positive feedback to empowered workers at appropriate times. Workers need to know how they have performed well in their new roles. Another method in which you can empower your workers is to provide feedback. Let them understand where they are at. How have they improved in the job? Give them feedback. This will motivate them. This will increase their productivity. So these are the ways in which workers can be empowered strategically to make them improve in terms of motivation and productivity. So that's all about human resources.